How does physical pain actually work in the circus? Can the circus members feel it every time something happens to them or only in certain situations? Or maybe only certain characters can feel it? Based on previous episodes, we could see a mixture of everything, so let's see what's really going on. First, I want to talk about the theory that, in my opinion, makes the most sense. And it's that physical pain could actually be tied to emotional triggers. Because just think about Ragata. She has been hurt in basically every episode so far, and it started with the character's introduction video, as you can see here. But we can also see that Ragata is actually fine. And the same goes for episode 2 when Gangle was driving on the rocky road and Kinger and Ragata were thrown around in the back of the truck. Then we see them with knives sticking out from both of their heads. But they look like nothing happened, just like in this scene. Ragata was a bit surprised to be stabbed through the chest, but she didn't seem like she was hurt. And in episode 4, when Jax threw Ragata into the deep fryer, Ragata was in it for almost a whole minute, but she still only had a band-aid on her face afterwards, and she didn't complain at all. And all this means that all these kinds of happenings didn't really hurt Ragata actually. However, in episode 1, when Kaufmo beat her up, we could see that Ragata was glitching in pain, and later in the episode she said it out loud.
I am in so much pain!
And the difference here was that she was left behind by Pomy. And we could see at the end how disappointed Ragata was that Pomy didn't help her. So I think this is the reason why she felt so much pain then, but not when she was fried alive. Because that was a typical Jax thing to do, so Ragata was basically unfazed. But looking at Pomy, she has also been through a lot. Starting out from episode 1, after she arrived at the circus, we saw that Pomy wanted to tear the headset down from her head. However, since it was not on her head, she instead pulled on her eyes. And obviously this would have been really painful in real life, but Pomy's eyes just went back to normal as if nothing happened, and she seemed fine afterwards. And this is similar to what happened in episode 3 when Pomy's eyes flew out from their sockets, and Pomy again didn't feel any pain, not even after Kinger started pulling her. And something interesting from episode 1, when she touched Ragata's hand when she was glitching, Pomy's hand also started glitching. And yeah, she was a bit surprised to see it, but she didn't feel the excruciating pain Ragata did. So this probably means that for Pomy this whole situation didn't mean a lot, which honestly makes sense, because she was fixated on finding the exit door and leaving the circus, and Ragata's situation didn't really move her at that point. But Pomy also seems to be very stretchy, and we could see what it really means in episode 2. After Jax grabbed Pomy by her throat and threw her out of the candy truck, we could see that Pomy was holding onto both trucks, but as they went farther, Pomy's arms were stretching accordingly, and her body even shrunk. Now, this was obviously a comedic element, and it's a common technique used in cartoons, so Pomy was fine after that. But Pomy more often feels the phantom pain that comes from falling or holding her breath, just like here.
I can't hold it any longer.
Her not being able to hold her breath for more than a few seconds is purely a mental block, as she wouldn't be able to do that in real life. However, in the digital world, she's fully capable of staying alive even if she doesn't breathe, so it's quite interesting to see how their minds play tricks on them. They aren't being physically hurt in a way we'd expect in the real world, but instead their brain seems to interpret certain situations as painful because they think they're supposed to feel pain. But in Zooble's case, the whole pain thing is really interesting, because at first I thought that, especially since their limbs are changeable, they probably don't feel pain like the others. Because here in this scene we could also see that the little glowings basically took them apart and went away with their body parts, but Zooble didn't seem in pain. It looked like they were annoyed. However, in episode 4 we could see that Zooble had a new body part, a spatula for a hand, and when they tried to use that to flip the burgers on the grill, they got burned, and we could see that it hurt Zooble, so they instead used a different spatula. But if we think about the theory that physical pain is linked to emotional triggers, I think this makes perfect sense. Because as we know, Zooble has difficulties with their body parts, as it was revealed when they were in therapy with Kane. So I'm guessing that this is why they felt pain when they burned themselves, because it's rooted in a mental discomfort. But it's also interesting to look at Jax and how he could be feeling pain. Because right at the beginning of episode 1, after Pomy spawned in, we could see her backing into the circus members, which resulted in them falling over, and Gangle's mask even broke. But then when they stood up, we could see Jax rubbing his back, as if it would have hurt him. But my guess is that in this scene, Jax probably had phantom pain, meaning that he felt like this would have hurt in the real world, but he didn't actually feel the pain in the digital world. But he still reacted to it as if he felt it. And the scene that was also interesting is this one.
Yeah, what are you talking about?
And here we can see what happens when Jax holds his breath. And while he looks kind of funny, it doesn't seem like he is hurt, even though Zooble is grabbing his throat. Or in episode 4, when Jax is forced to watch Gangle's video, we can hear him asking,
Nobody can see this, right?
So it's like his ego is what's hurting in this situation, although I'm sure this is not a comfortable position to be in. And as for Kinger, we saw him removing his eyes and popping them back on numerous times, and I think this is something that his character is capable of, but Kinger instead seemed to be in pain because of his memories. In episode 3, when he talked about his abstracted wife, we could see that this is something that really affected Kinger, and he maybe even had some regrets about what happened in the past, so for him, emotional pain is definitely what's in focus. And actually the same goes for Gangle. Gangle's mask, which is the physical object, is the literal equivalent of her emotions. So we can see that when her mask breaks, Gangle gets sad, which is completely a mental reaction, like here.
Jax!
I actually didn't mean to do that.
Are you alright, Gangle?
She has a reaction, but maybe it's more about her mental state rather than her mask getting broken. And if this is the case, I'm guessing that back in episode 2, when the princess was talking about how the chocolate fudge monster eats the people in the kingdom, they basically can't be eaten. Or if they can, it wouldn't hurt, or at least not in a traditional way. The emotional pain, however, is much more dangerous and it can have long-lasting effects. Kaufman's funeral scene is a good example in my opinion. We could see all the present characters got moved by losing one of them. And even though Gangle and Ragata admitted that they weren't really laughing at Kaufman's jokes, they still felt touched by his abstraction and then funeral. But another possibility is that pain is only relevant in situations where it makes sense for the characters to feel it, or when it has comedic purposes. And Jax likes to be the one that causes trouble for the circus members, knowing that they essentially can die in the digital world. And even if they feel a little bit of pain, it's more the sensation that comes with it. So pain works in an interesting way in the digital circus. It only seems to hurt when it makes sense for the characters to feel it or when their minds expect it to. Otherwise, physical pain is used for comedy or to remind us how things would hurt in the real world. And the character's body is reset after even extreme situations, showing that they are digital copies and not bound by real-world rules. But emotional pain is much harder to brush off. Ragatha glitching after Kaufman's attack, Kinger's grief over his abstracted wife, and Gangle's sadness when her mask breaks all show how emotional struggles affect the characters more deeply. And these moments highlight how emotional pain lingers and is tied to personal experiences, unlike physical harm, which they can shrug off easily. But in the end, physical pain is often muted or used as a joke, but emotional pain cuts much deeper. And for these digital beings, it's the one thing they truly can't escape. But let me know what you think about this theory down in the comments. Thanks for watching, don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.